Welcome to the Rewards Master. So today I'm going to be flying on a 777 with American Airlines in their business class, flagship business. And I'm flying from Rome back to the United States. And so hopefully I'll be able to give you a good review and give you a little idea of what American's business class is like. So I've flown on several business classes before, and so I think I'll have a pretty good point of comparison. I've flown with United in their Polaris. I've flown with British Airways in business class. I've flown with Turkish Airlines in business class. I've flown with Iberia. And so I'm excited to see what this one's going to be like in comparison to those others. So I'll be using the same evaluation scale on my flight today that we use on all of our business class flights. And so I'll be looking at 5 different aspects of American Airlines flagship business class. I'll be looking at the lounge experience. I'll be looking at the seat, the service, the amenity kit, and finally, I'll be looking at how good the food and beverage service is. And so there are other things we could talk about. I mean, sometimes people will mention what kind of bedding they have, or they'll talk about how many, storage options are in the seat. But I just think it's simpler to evaluate the things that matter the most to me. The only one in that list that kind of is questionable is the amenity kit, but it is one of the cool things about flying in business class. So I always like to include that as well. As you'd expect in business class, they gave me a warm towel followed by warm nuts. I've got my trusty Coca-Cola here with me. Now I'm going to look through the amenity kit. So it's certainly not the fanciest amenity kit I've seen. It's just kind of a cloth bag on the outside. As we dig into it, have a dental kit. Includes toothpaste, toothbrush, kind of typical for amenity kit. We have a flagship branded eye mask, some earplugs, some body lotion, and this looks like some lip balm. So as amenity kits go, that's kind of got all the standard fare, but nothing that's like overly blow your mind. The bag's not leather like on some of them, and the presentation's certainly not anything overly fancy. So the menu on my flight is actually a little better than I expected. In fact, it has a starter plate of salmon. I think that's kind of a cold salmon. I'll have it, and I'll let you know once I try it. followed by a romaine lettuce salad, and then four choices for a main entree. They have a slow cooked beef dish. They have a chicken dish, roasted chicken. They have a salmon, pan seared salmon, and they have a vegetarian Indian lentil dish. For dessert, they have three options, including an ice cream sundae, what I'll probably have. And then they have a cheese plate, and then you could get a chocolate mousse as well. So a pretty good extensive menu. They're also going to serve us a little light breakfast toward the end of the flight. So we'll see how that is as well. So they just brought the first course of my meal service, and it really doesn't look that bad. We have a salad, some great bread. I had three or four bread choices, and this is the one that the flight attendant recommended. She said it's kind of a sweet pretzel bread. That'll be good to try. Vinaigrette dressing, and a salmon appetizer. Real silverware, and really not a bad presentation. My main course has arrived. As I said, I ordered the salmon, and it came with a rice dish as well. So let's look at it. Looks like some sort of mustard sauce, some greens, some rice and grains. Fairly good presentation. Looking forward to trying it. All right, my dessert just arrived, and I ordered the sundae. And to my surprise, they had four or five different toppings. So I got my very favorite, butterscotch and hot fudge. The entertainment system it's just kind of typical when it comes to choices. There's quite a few movies, several new releases. Their choices of television shows were less than what I see on several other airlines. But overall, it's not too hard to find something to watch. I'm going to put my seat back into bed mode, and let's see how comfortable it is. The controls are fairly simple. Just hold the button. All right, I got the seat in full bed mode, and you know, it's pretty comfortable. In fact, I'm pretty tall, over 6 feet tall, and I fit in this little cocoon pretty well. And compared to some of the other business classes I've been on, this one's just a little bit more private. There isn't a door that closes, but you are kind of, because of the reverse herringbone layout, you're kind of, in here by yourself, and there's some sense of privacy, especially since my head's kind of up here in the covered part. I'm not looking at the aisle. So it's pretty good, pretty good. And in fact, the seat itself is pretty comfortable to lay on as well. So let's take a look at the bedding. Soft, comfy pillow. It seems to be pretty fluffy as well. There's a really good blanket. It's much thicker than oftentimes you see on a business class flight. It's quilted, really comfortable looking. I was kind of excited to see that there are slippers included on American business class. That's a feature I haven't had on a business class before. I know some airlines do so, but I would have never thought American would have been one of them. But let's see if the hype or the excitement is justified or it's a little bit kind of overhyped. So they're comfortable. They feel soft and padded, but they're certainly not very big and they're not very thick at all. I suppose it's better than no slippers at all. This flight, I thought, was a fairly good redemption. I paid 62,000 American miles and about 50 to $52 in taxes and fees. The carriers in the United States, Delta, American, United, they have really good prices on taxes and fees. They don't pass on surcharges or anything like that. And I thought 62,000 for a redemption in business class for a 10-hour flight was really not that bad at all. That's why I always say that American miles are worth so much. So this flight, if it would have cost $3,000, $4,000, then you're getting a really good cent per point on this redemption. So how do I rate flagship business on American Airlines? Well, the price was good, 62,000 points and just about $50 in taxes and fees. And, you know, the 777 is a little dated. It's a little bit older, but it's been a comfortable ride. The lounge was the most disappointing part of the entire trip because in Rome, American doesn't have a lounge. And the business lounge that they use is you have a choice between the Plaza Premium, which is an all right lounge, and then you could go into the British Airways lounge. And so I actually kind of paid a visit to both of them. They're right across from each other. So they were nice, they were decent, but it wasn't a dedicated lounge and it wasn't certainly what you'd think of as a super lounge like the ones you're going to find with many of the foreign airlines, and not even probably as good as a flagship lounge that you'd find in the United States or United Polaris or the new Delta One. So for the lounge, I think all I'm going to be able to give it is a 2 out of 5. When it comes to the seat, I've never flown before facing backwards. This is my first experience with that, but I didn't mind it. It was fine. It kind of puts your head kind of more towards the window and you have a little more seclusion, a little more privacy. So that was fine. But as far as the seat itself, it's kind of your typical business class seat. My feet were kind of in a very narrow well down there, and I felt like they were constricted a little bit. And some, the seat looks a little bit worn. The recline was good. The seat was comfortable. The bedding and all of that they provided they were nice. So I think a fair score is a 3 out of 5 when it comes to the seat. My service on this flight has been pretty good. I mean, when it comes to the flight attendants coming around, they came around fairly regularly and giving people a time to sleep and to turn off the lights and shut the window shades and enjoy themselves in that way. But as far as their attentiveness, I hit the call button one time during my trip and they were right here. I mean, within probably 20 seconds, they made it and they brought me exactly what I asked for right away. So I would say the service has actually been really good, and I'm going to give them a 4 out of 5. The Amenity kit was really a disappointment. In fact, it's one of the least impressive Amenity kits. It had less things in it than really I've gotten on any other planes. But the thing is they did include those slippers. Now, they weren't the most plush slippers like you get at a 5-star hotel, but it was kind of a nice addition. So rather than giving them a 1 on the Amenity kit, I'll let the slippers bump it up to a score of a 2. And the food. Now, this one really surprised me because I kind of expected the food to be maybe one of the worst parts of the experience of flying in American's flagship business. I've not heard good things about it. But to my great surprise, my appetizer, my cold salmon appetizer was delicious. My hot salmon meal that came with a rice dish was really, really good. And the hot fudge and butterscotch sundae was really, really a treat. So it's not quite the best I've ever had on a plane. That award still goes to Turkish Airlines, but it was really good. And to my great surprise, I'm going to give them a 4 out of 5 on the food. Now, when you add all of those scores together, you come out with 14 out of 25. So kind of right in the middle. That would be basically a 3-star. And so it's kind of what you expect from American flagship business. And it's not one of the greatest airlines in the world in business class, but it's tolerable. And in fact, if I need to go places in the future, and I am certain I will fly it again because I collect and I cherish American Airlines miles. So for what you pay for this, 62,000 points or a long flight, decent service, really good food on my flight, I think I'll say it's not a bad experience. Not the best experience, but not a bad experience at all. Now, a few things I'll mention. On the entertainment system, it was rather disappointing in that it had some good new movies, but the episodes of shows that I wanted to watch, they had like on some of them only 3 available, which that wasn't very good. Like I said, the actual seat itself was a little dated and a little worn. You could tell that it needed to be spruced up in some places. But one of the things I did like is they had a snack galley, and the snacks they had available, I thought were really rather good. In fact, I went back to the snack galley a couple times. They had a good drink selection. They had, it was overall a very good flight. So if you're looking to book an inexpensive business class flight on your points, you have American points and ways to earn American points, I would say don't shy away from American. They're not the best, but they're certainly not the worst. So hope you've enjoyed this. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you here next time.